Galantas Gold, I think this is a fairly new story, even though this has been around for some time. At the last panel, you would have heard something about district play, and I think that is actually very critical. I think for juniors to be successful in this environment, you have to have a district play. And this is what Galantas is all about. It's a district play in Northern Ireland in a region that no one's really looked for gold. We're the only gold producing mine in Northern Ireland, and a lot of you will know a lot about Northern Ireland because there is a significant discovery there that's currently controlled by Orion and a private company with Dilation. Your typical cautionary statement. So what makes Galantas quite interesting, I think, from an investment perspective is we've got a history of operation. We're transitioning from an open pit to an underground mine, and we're starting to now ramp up our underground production. We already have all the infrastructure in place. We've got a mill, we've got a team, we've got all the infrastructure you'd want to see in an operating mine. But from Galantas' perspective, we're trying to do this as a small-scale operation and just grow this steadily so we try and limit the potential dilution to shareholders. And the shareholders are key here. And I think that is what the last panel was saying as well. Who is behind this? And when you look at Galantas, I think we've got some of the best shareholder base on any junior out there. We've got Eric Sprott, who owns over 15%. We have Ross Beatty, who was an early shareholder in Galantas. We've got a shareholder out of the UK that owns about 30%. We got Mike Gentile, who many of you here will know who he is. He's been very successful in the space, investing in the space. So we've got that key shareholder base that's going to help support Galantas as we move this project forward. And at the end of the day, it's all about real estate. Do you actually have something that could deliver, whether you're in copper, you're nickel, or in our case, at Galantas, we're in gold. Do you actually have the ground that could have a multi-million ounce deposit? And we definitely think we do, and I'll show you why. But going back to the district scale, when you look at Galantas, what we have is a large district scale in Northern Ireland. We control over 500 square kilometres, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because we only have about 10 minutes. I want to leave it for a little bit of questions, but this thing hasn't been drilled since 2014 as it was transitioning from underground to open pit. We've now have an extra 10,000 ounces of drilling that's going to get into our next resource, which we hope to have by the end of the first half of this year. But the key is we're now finding some really high grade wide zones of mineralization. It's really going to change the mining concept of how we're going to do this. It's not only narrow vein mining, but we now have zones that could be 3, 4, 5, 10 meters in width. In terms of where we are on our production profile, we don't have any guidance out as yet, but our strategy is to do this as small scale, do it like the old timers did, start small, just get some gold out there because we already have a mill. It's been built. It's 200 ton per day mill. We can expand that to 500-600 tons per day with capital, but we're now into our first few stopes in the beginning of the year. It took us a little bit longer than we anticipated to really understand some of the geotechnical issues here at Galantas. And that's pretty typical in Ireland. A lot of the mines there have some poor ground conditions, and in our case, we really wanted to make sure that we understood how to mine this ore body underground because we were transitioning from open pit to underground, and we're trying to do this in a very low capital intensity way so that, again, you know, we're not investing 50, 60, 70 million here in underground development. We're just doing this one step at a time. And finally now in the first month, we're starting to see some good success now at these stopes and moving those forward. And our hope is we're going to see some higher grades than were in the original resource model. And we're pretty confident you will based on some of the drilling we've been doing here. And that's some of the underground development. There's already 2 kilometers of underground development here at Galantas. And that was really focused on in 2017, 2019. And then, as I mentioned, the focus now is to get the underground development into production, while at the same time we start to focus on some of our exploration at Galantas. And this is really what the key story is here. Don't get me wrong, everyone wants to see production at Galantas. That's a priority. But the reason why Eric Sprott, Mike Gentile, Ross Beatty came into this is because they saw the potential here for a world-class discovery. You know, I know a lot of people use that word loosely, but keep in mind, 20 kilometers away from us is a world-class discovery with Omagh, which is the Dilation project that's owned by Orion. We heard it's 10 million ounces at 13 grams. When they got sold in 2018, it was 6 million ounces at 13 grams. So they've been drilling. So, you know, without doubt, there's a world-class potential here. And this whole area is quite interesting because Eric Sprott is heavily invested in Newfoundland with newfound gold and exploits. But really the geology that you see in Newfoundland is the same geology you will see in Northern Ireland, and you also see in Scotland. It's just that no one looked in Northern Ireland for gold. And it was really Galantas was the first mover. Dalradian had some great success, and they focused on drilling and building a big resource with great success. But now Dalradian is close to getting their permit. We're told the official process has started. I think on Monday is the last day to submit comments. But we're really confident. Everything we're hearing on the ground is they're going to get permitted. We want to see them permitted. Because I think mining in Northern Ireland with Dalradian ourselves is going to add a lot of value to the communities, to the country. So we're really hopeful that they're going to get permitted, and we think that process is now underway. And once they are permitted, we're pretty confident as well. Some of the majors will be looking quite closely at this, and we're right next door. But again, a lot of the exploration and investment on the exploration side hasn't been done at Galantas, and we're doing that now. And you can sort of see some of the gold trend there on that slide. And we think, as we continue to drill and advance our project, we think we've got another potential for a world-class discovery. And those are some of our targets. All our drilling, we got about 500,000 ounces at 7 grams, and it's really been focused at the Kearney and the Joshua veins. But when you look at where we're seeing on strike and to depth, and the number of veins that we're seeing near the Kearney and Joshua veins and haven't been drilled. So Dalradian, when they came out with their 6 million ounce resource, had about 26 veins identified, and they drilled them. We've only drilled 2 veins, but we've already got 16 identified. So as we continue to drill these veins, we're pretty confident that we're going to have, a significant discovery on our hands here with production, which is the key here. We already talked about the district scale, but one of the things I really want everyone here to understand is because we're underground, because we're mining, the key difference for Galantas now is because we were underground, we're able to see how the geology transforms the veins. So we've been able to now identify what we call dilation zones. So it's basically where these veins swell. And it's this drilling that we've been doing over the last 2 years. And in fact, there were some drill holes done in 2015-16 that now confirm we have these dilation zones. So our 500,000 ounce resource, even though we now done 9,000 extra drilling, it's no longer just these 1.5 meter veins. We're now going to be able to incorporate where these veins start to swell. And it's where these veins are swelling, not only are we getting thicker zones, we're getting those better grades. And you can start to see that in some of the veins. You get this black clay with quartz veins. And at Joshua, the last hole we drilled at Joshua was 13 meters of 17 grams. And we've already got drills we plan to have at Joshua within the next 6 weeks. And we're continuing to drill the Kearney vein. And at the Kearney vein, we've been getting some significant hits as well. We've been getting things like 7 meters of 30 grams. And a couple of the parallel veins, we've been getting 2 meters of 70 grams. So we're seeing some significant mineralization here now at our Galantas project. But keep in mind, we've only drilled the Kearney vein to about 300 meters in depth. And we've only drilled the Joshua vein to about 160 meters in depth. And we're now drilling in between these 2 veins in another vein that we call the Kerr vein, that there was indication in the open pit that there was another north-south trending vein, that we think there's potential there to be another vein set in between these 2 veins. And again, everything here is all still fairly shallow drilling when it's all said and done. And then very quickly, we announced on Thursday that we also picked up another project, another district scale, what we think has potential to be district scale discovery. We're clearly focused on Galantas and getting our asset up and running, consistent production in Northern Ireland, but this was just too good of an opportunity for us to turn up. It was about $1 million US, let's call it, in terms of acquisition cost, but this was an area that was explored in the 70s by Consolidated Goldfields, and they had some great holes. It's a gold VMS system, they had a small resource, but no one ever followed up on it, other than the British Geological Society. There was only 1 hole drilled since 1970 and 2018 that confirmed that resource. But some of the holes that you would see there that were drilled in the 70s, 11 grams gold, 2 grams silver, 0.6 grams copper over 16 meters. And you would see these kind of hits, but the key here is this is a 10-kilometer trend in a VMS system that has never been explored. Think about that. If you found this in Quebec, you found this anywhere else in the developed world where you have VMS systems, this company, this asset on its own would probably be worth $5 to $25 million if it were outside of Galantas. We just picked this up on Thursday. We're going to have a webinar on Wednesday, I believe, to really go through some of the geology on this. I think everyone in this room should really listen to the geo here, because we think we've got something special in Scotland in addition to what we think we have special in Northern Ireland. That's it. Thank you.